What's going on, guys? We are back with another episode of CHL Mailtime with the first round of the LG CHL playoffs in the books. Lots of exciting storylines here, from overturned games to the number one seed almost having to take it to game 7. It was crazy. I'm supposed to have Hamilton X27 from the Acadie Bathurst Titan joining me tonight. However, we are dealing with some technical difficulties where his notifications aren't coming up when I send him an invite to this, and it's just not working right. And if you guys know anything about technology, it's kind of complicated. Anyways, if he does join me at any point, I will stop and welcome everybody, welcome him to the show. So bear with me with that. Some of the questions were directed at him. I'll hold off on those as long as possible. Hopefully he joins us at some point. Basically, there wasn't a whole lot of action on the voicemail line. Last week we had a lot. We had one question from J-Rod come in, and that's basically a rule change suggestion in a way. Wait for Hamilton to hopefully get here, and we will discuss it all. But let's just break down some of these playoff matchups of the series. I mean, the word on the street is the Saguenay's beat the Phoenix. That game hasn't been posted officially yet. Maybe refresh the page. Maybe something has updated. And nothing yet, but I do know, even though it's not up to date, the Kamloops Blazers did prevail over the Vancouver Giants. And once again, I'm not sure about the Everett and Prince George Cougars game, which I think is the only, and the Blades versus the Hurricanes, of course, as our game 7s for the night. I'm excited to find out who won what and where the rest of this playoff's taking us. I know my team won due to a rule violation last night. It's not the way we wanted to win, but playing by the rules is the way we all come to play. And if you break them, there are consequences. For those of you that don't know, they had a player for the Seattle Thunderbirds playing his third game by game 5. Things were a little confusing as to why this individual was already playing that. We went on to play game 6, lost that as well, so we would have been in game 7 tonight. However, due to the ruling, it was overturned, and the series ended in 5 games, so 4-1 series win for the Spokane Chiefs. Big upset, I guess, would have to be the Portland upset of Tri-City, the 7 seed beating the 2. I kind of expected something like this to happen, but I wasn't sure if it was going to be this series. But I do know Portland has the ability to steal a series if they get their guys to show up when they need them to. And they proved this over Tri-City, who throughout the season has been nothing but a pain in the rear for the Winterhawks, just like everybody else in the division. Other than that, White Silence wrote in a few questions. If you guys are interested in getting involved in the show, you can always call 774-260-5411. Hit me up on Twitter, use the hashtag CHL Mailtime, or just send me a PM and ask away. The only thing we ask is when you do post or call in a question, you keep the curses down to a minimum. I do not want to get in trouble from the big boss, F5 Penguin. He'll yell at me and say, you got to clean up the language, and of course, that's never fun for me. So White Silence's question, which was basically geared towards myself and Hamilton, however, he's not with us yet. What would I like to see improve for next season? Honestly, on a personal level, I would love to see more active media members and more people trying to produce content and help out and get involved, and not just sit back and watch. Because I mean, even the people that aren't directly involved, they're not even, they don't participate in a lot of the show conversations or the thing like that. Guys like White Silence has been involved in every aspect of the game, even though he's not producing content on live video or audio on a weekly basis. This guy's writing in a question if there's no show for him to be on. He came on the QMJ playoff preview and provided power rankings every week. So I'd like to see more active members in the community trying to get more involved and see how deep this league actually goes, deeper down the rabbit hole. and the deeper you get, the harder you work, and but it's the more involved in the league, and the more you understand about how the league works, what players are better, which ones are not. You start to see a lot bigger picture of the league than just what it is. Whether it's you're in a training camp, you're an underdog in a playoff series, doesn't matter. You'll get more involved in the league. This thing has lots of stuff going on. But from a competitive level, I mean, it's all going to depend on what NHL 15 brings us. It could be a game filled with problems. It could be a game that's blessed with all these problems fixed. It's just one of those. We're not sure what the game's going to bring yet, so I can't sit here and hope that everything's fixed, because that's obviously not going to happen. But what I'm saying is, you want to make sure that the game's going to have to be up to par first before we start worrying about how the league goes. But if we were, I think we need to revisit some of these call-up issues, things like that, with training camp players going from AHL down to CHL, just the whole legislative overhaul, if you will, basically breaking down, because I know it's been very confusing and very frustrating for a lot of guys that get called up into the AHL for a week just because the team folded and they basically got to miss out on the playoffs. But other than that, I mean, we're going to have to wait to see what NHL 15 brings, and then we can start complaining about everything else. Twitter, we had a question from Rushpock this week. He says, what do we think of CHL players and managers that are ready to make the jump to the AHL? Well, I feel that with the Xbox One season coming out, we're going to have a lower turnout on the numbers of signups and stuff like that. So I don't know if we're going to be able to field a full CHL like we did this year. But if I had to pick some managers, obviously Bocasmo of Kamloops, Hamilton, who hopefully is joining us from the Bathurst Titan. Those are the two, obviously, that stand out in everybody's eyes. But there are guys out there, Nicky W., even Rushpock yourself. There are guys out there that have the ability to build a talented roster and see what works with who. However, it's all going to depend on who wants to move up. I mean, I personally think Boca should move up. This is his second season as a GM, and he's had two very successful seasons, winning the Memorial Cup last year and moving on to the quarterfinals in the playoffs for the second straight season. So, I mean, a guy like him, he knows what he's doing. He's got a lot of connections in the higher leagues. There's no reason why he shouldn't be in the AHL next year, but once again, that's a personal preference. If he chooses to stay, he chooses to stay. There's no rules in the books right now on how that works. As far as players come and go. It's not the guys that have one great season. It's the guy that has multiple good seasons that proves that he's going to be a staple here at LG and not just be the guy that has a couple good games carried by one good line. A guy like Breck Easy, there's our Breck Easy setting for the night. He would absolutely do a lot of good things in the AHL. The problem is, when his salary is $9 million, no team can afford to call him up, even if it was to call him up for a week. They just can't afford to put that salary on there. That's not his fault, though, so I mean, you can't really blame him for that. But that's the reason why. And then you get the guys that are lifetime CHLers that refuse to get called up because they like to be the dominant guys here in the CHL. Which, sure, if that's your game plan, good for you. You're not impressing anyone. Nobody, it's fun to watch and that prestige of winning your Memorial Cup. But if you don't win your Memorial Cup in your first 2 or 3 seasons here and don't have any aspirations of moving up, then why waste your time? Why not just go play club? But yeah, players, there's a whole handful of defenders out there that are AHL caliber, a bunch of forwards, but I know it's hard for me to speak upon them because a lot of them work well within the system they're in. And as far as goaltending, obviously the trio or quadruplet, whatever goaltending crew they have over in Kamloops and or the I think it was Hamilton team had a stacked goaltending lineup for a while. But I mean, there's a lot of goalies out there. I think goalies come with playing with a solid defensive core. If you limit the high scoring opportunities, things will be better. This is a not so exciting show because my guest couldn't get through here, so it's been rather boring. But I guess I'll just go with J-Rod's question. I'm not going to play it just because he sounds like he swallowed his microphone when he did this. But you can still tweet at me at CHL Mailtime, get some questions going, because the more stuff you guys have, the more we have to talk about, things like that. But J-Rod's question was basically, what should we do about players who are called up from the CHL and their team gets eliminated from the playoffs, or they didn't make the playoffs? Why shouldn't they be able to go back to the CHL to make a playoff run with their team? Obviously, according to the rules, that doesn't happen. It can't happen, or whatever it says. But I mean, my theory has been, after giving it thought over the last few weeks, is if you started the season in the CHL, if your team above you that called you up is eliminated, you should be able to go back down and help your club, because I mean, some of these guys put in 6-7 weeks of hard work. A team collapses in the CHL like the AHL like the Texas Stars this year. Then we have some guys getting called up, not getting to play very many games. I think he played like 5 games in 3 weeks. Everything else was a forfeit. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but for a guy like J-Rod who likes to play the game, not just in the league, it sucks having to sit in the lobby and wait for an official forfeit as opposed to playing in the CHL. And those are the exceptions where I feel that a guy should want to go back and play in the CHL, but not just for that competitive edge. It just sucks playing, signing up for a league, following all the rules, and then not getting a chance to play because nobody on the team cares. And that's just basically a big knock on those GMs and players that don't have the intestinal fortitude, if you will, to stick it out even when you can't make it. I know in the CHL we had a whole bunch of teams that did stick it out towards the end, and they actually changed some of the seating problems. Or the seating positions, I should say, within the league, and allowing the whatchamacallit, lots of words here. And basically forcing a team into a less favorable matchup. This question came from White Silence, another one, basically asking, what do I think of the Voltigeurs as the Q champs on the what does he think of White Silence putting? That was towards Hamilton, and I'll kind of field that one, and I know why it was said, because at the time it just felt like the top teams were all kind of slipping and trailing off at the end after they had secured their 1 and 2 seeds or whatever, and they realized there wasn't much movement available for them in the system. It would they could basically play a bunch of TCs and not really worry about those games when they didn't have any chance to move up or down in the standings. However, the Voltigeurs seemed to be putting the beat down on people till the very end. And they had a lot of momentum riding into the playoffs, so I don't know if that's why it was said. I'm sure Hamilton's not going to agree with it, obviously, because he's the rival GM. Yeah, so I mean, if you guys got any questions, Twitter, hit them up. CHL Mailtime, use the hashtag. I know it's not the most exciting thing, but hopefully. We got some good ones coming in. Yeah, so CHL Mailtime hashtag. That's where we'll get the questions going right now. And basically, this one comes from Portland Sox. I don't know who these guys are, but Suspect, Raptor, and Deathblade, one of the best lines in the league, but does Spokane have the forward depth to go far? I believe we do, depending on what shows up for our second and third lines. Our second line is talented. It's just they got screwed with a lot of tougher matchups this season, having to battle against Kamloops a couple times whenever we played the Swift Current or Saskatoon games. I mean, and they kept the Raptor Deathblade Suspect line in check and ready to go for the division games, which were obviously 4-point swing games. Those are the games we couldn't afford to lose, so we ensured that we won those as many as we could. So it's not whether or not we have the depth, it's whether or not we have a favorable matchup for that second line. A team like Kamloops is going to give us a run for our money. A team like Medicine Hat, Swift Current, and I don't know about Swift Current, but Saskatoon, those guys, if they give us they could give us a legit run for our money when it comes to beating that top line. So those are the ones we have to honestly worry about, and not so much on whether or not the second and third line can actually get it done. But they do appreciate that compliment, because I will agree they are one of the unstoppable forces here in the CHL. This one came in from Nutty Grandpa. He says, first time in 3 seasons I get threatened from another LGer. Suddenly he goes from 48 to 50. Listen, guys, if you feel the need to threaten somebody or to chirp somebody, whatever, think about really what you're doing. I mean, you're going to threaten somebody over the internet. That's really not cool. I mean, it never is. It doesn't matter age or not, but he's an old man. Respect your elders. The next one comes in from Archie. I don't know the numbers on the end of his gamer tag. Portland Winterhawks GM. What do you think the top 4 are in the playoffs after seeing round 1? After seeing round 1, I didn't get to see a whole lot of it. I only saw 2 games myself, but I paid attention through Tuesday, and then as the series kind of trailed off, I stopped following because there was less and less excitement. But I do know, obviously, Kamloops is still in. They're still a favorite of mine if I was a betting man. I think you can't ignore the Spokane Chiefs. I think they have some favorable matchups in their future to get past this next round. So that should be interesting in itself. But I do like the fact that the Moose Jaw's back on track. They dominated the Broncos. Red Deer's right there, and that's just in the WHL. Over in the Q, the Titans, Voltigeurs, still your favorites. The Huskies, I'm sorry about the matchup you guys are about to get, because I think no matter what happened tonight, you're either playing the 1 or the 2 seed. But that's the bad end of being a lower seed in the playoffs. You always gonna have to play a tough matchup. And then all the other games that haven't fully updated. I know we have the Prince George versus Everett series that's still not complete in the books. The Sherbrooke and the Chicoutimi Saguenines, they're not in the books yet. Hopefully those will get updated soon. Back to Twitter. How do you feel the Kamloops and Portland series will go, in all honesty? That's from Cold as Life, the D-man from Portland. We all love him. I like what Portland's got going right now. They're just playing their game and just going out and surprising people, shock the world. I don't know if that's going to be enough, though, to stop Kamloops, because I think after going to 7, they feel kind of embarrassed, especially taking 2 losses in one night. I think they're out for blood right now. So good luck, Portland. I mean, I'm rooting for you, as I was rooting for Vancouver this whole time, so hopefully it's just one of those things. This one comes in from the Fours. Thoughts on the Armada forfeiting? Listen, I can't speak on the situation itself because I don't know exactly what happened. If it's a forfeit because they couldn't gather the players within the confines of the rules, that's half of the playoff battle, is conforming to rules in this league. However, if it was due to not having a chance, I'd have to say that's cowardly. But I don't know the whole situation. If you want, send me a Twitter direct message, and I'll go over it and we'll bring it up next time. Back to Archie, just because he's watching. Shout out to Nutty Grandpa for going 6-16-3 and still getting his playoff spot. Hey, I did some look at some of the guys on my team's stats, and I'll tell you right now, this is Nutty's best season as a GM/player. He's gotten a lot better. As I said, he was on that line that got the less favorable matchups. Nutty's record does not reflect his ability. I promise you he's better than that record shows. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Without Hamilton getting on here, it's kind of tough, so I feel like we have a false advertising claim. To everybody else that's in the playoffs, not in the playoffs, watching it from home, watching on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed, like, share, do all that good stuff. And then we will see you next week. I will hopefully be able to get Hamilton on here at some point. If we have to do like a retaping of the show, we will. If not, I will see you guys next week on CHL Mailtime. Don't forget to call. Stay tuned to Twitter. Follow me there at Powda_P, and I will post the links to the number and who my special guest will be, and hopefully we won't have the same technical difficulties. So you guys have a good night and good luck in round 2 of the playoffs.